Welcome to Market Stalkers. If you're new here, my name is Diana Angelo. I'm a former rock musician turned data scientist specialized in trading commodities futures and educating the retail community how to use professional order flow trading tools properly and systematically. And that gives you a slight shortcut on your journey to master one of the toughest skills on the planet, making decisions in uncertainty environments that are ruled by probabilities. That was a mouthful. For those who are still with me, let's talk about trader burnout today. And, not just trader burnout, but burnout in general and what you can do to prevent it from happening. Time is always seen as something we don't have enough of. You frequently hear people saying, I don't have the time, I wish I had more time, I wish I could make more time. Well, when you're trying to learn a new high-level skill, it can and does become very difficult to ensure you fit everything in. You've got a full-time job, maybe you've got a family, or maybe you're just trying to maintain a vibrant social life. I wanted to address the issue of trader burnout that I've noticed happening every so often with the traders that I'm coaching in the Go Mentoring portal. I've already asked a few of them to start tracking how tired they are, how much they've slept, whether they're exercising enough, whether they're eating right. But I felt that me just saying things like, well, just try to sleep more. I mean, that's great, but I wanted to provide like a more practical solution for being able to learn how to do day trading consistently and properly without getting to a point where you're like running yourself into the ground on 3 hours sleep and just feeling like shit all the time. And the reason why you're feeling like that is because your body is simply not functioning at an optimal level. If you're caffeine up to your eyeballs, you're probably having trouble sleeping as well. And when you're constantly sleep deprived, eventually you'll get demotivated, frustrated, annoyed, and the last thing you want to do is to go and do some gym for some exercise. You'd rather just go home, pour yourself a nice glass of wine or whiskey and just drift off to sleep, all the while worrying about the next day's activities, right? We've all done that. Now don't worry, I'm a businesswoman. I'm not some like holy fitness nun who's gonna tell you that if you want to be a profitable trader, you need to, give up all the joys of life, have washboard abs, never drink alcohol, be in bed by 9 p.m. and only ever eat wholesome foods that are organic and whatever. That is unrealistic and frankly about as useful as an ashtray on a motorbike. But at the same time, if you don't take control over some aspects of your increasingly busy lifestyle, eventually you will get to a point of burnout. I started this company and ultimately this channel out of passion to help people live better, with more resources at their disposal and to enjoy life on Earth with greater ease, pursuing all the passions that you have. And this territory always comes with a desire to learn new skills. But learning new stuff while working full-time, as you've seen from one of my previous videos, it means that you really have to become more efficient with your time management. You know that you have to put in the hours to learn the new skills, but the more you push, the more tired you get, the more caffeine you scull down, the less you sleep, and eventually you feel like you hate the world around you. That's no way to live. The truth is, time management is only one very small piece of it. So let's go through some of the other components of how you can manage your busy lives more efficiently. Number one, okay, everyone's gonna hate me for this, exercise. You have to make time for it. Because if you're trying to learn a new thing, if your body isn't working right, neither will your brain. So you can try and learn new stuff, but what I've seen happen with some people is that by month 3 of this new heavy schedule, trying to do 2-3 things at a time, they fall apart. They start mixing up conditions. Weekly trading plans that were stellar and factual and objective suddenly go to being a complete car crash and not even seeing something really obvious like a massive bearish engulfing coming from a weekly supply. And then it starts. I haven't slept well last few weeks, I'm feeling shit, I got ill, I got coronavirus, I've got eczema, I've got this, I've got that. But really, what that is just burnout. And the first step to battling burnout has to be on a physiological level, which means exercise. Not because you want a six-pack, but because stress and resulting burnout happen because the stress hormone cortisol rises and then it doesn't go back down. Then you get a buildup of adrenaline in your system, and to keep going, you keep using copious amounts of caffeine, and then you fuck up your adrenal glands. Caffeine should be used to help your performance. It's a performance enhancer. It's not supposed to be there to stop you from dozing off in a meeting because you didn't get to sleep until 6 a.m. So, it's no surprise that by the time a lot of us get to mid-30s and mid-40s, we start having health problems. And then here you are, trying to learn this really tough thing, day trading, and yet neither your body nor your brain are functioning correctly. Exercise that gets you even just slightly out of breath oxygenates your body, and it provides an outlet for all that stress and adrenaline to go somewhere rather than into high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. But that doesn't mean that you suddenly have to do what I did. I'm a bit nuts. So I signed up to do a bodybuilding competition and started working out 6 times a week, twice a day. So you don't have to do that. But 3 to 4 times a week for at least half an hour to an hour, that's a good start, especially if you have elevated cortisol levels. I do my blood profiles every year to make sure that my pre-diabetes doesn't return. And it's one of the reasons why I'm on a ketogenic diet, probably about 70% of the year. And speaking of nutrition, I don't like the word diet because, it's not a diet. It really needs to become more of a permanent lifestyle choice. And leaving the junk for, once or twice a month treat. Before COVID, I had so many friends say to me stuff like, especially females, I'm going on a vacation, so I've decided as soon as I get there, I'm going on a diet. Yeah, okay, so you think a vacation in a new country where, you have all this nice food around you, that's the time to stress yourself with the diet. I personally do the reverse. For most of the year, I will behave myself, but I try to limit alcohol to about once or twice a week. So you can enjoy alcohol, just not all the time and whenever you want. You can't treat your entire life and your entire nutrition as if it's like one big cheat meal. That needs to stop because you're trying to maximize the number of neural networks that your brain is creating. Not, kill more gray cells by drinking every night and then getting smashed at weekends. Next thing that's incredibly important is to take control over your sleep. I've been an athlete long before I was a musician. I've kept up with the science, and over the years I tried to implement as much of the new findings as possible. And I want to share those findings with you as like a little life hack to a better, more restful sleep. And bizarrely enough, it's not necessarily about sleeping more. It's perfectly possible to sleep about 5 to 6 hours and to feel more rested than sleeping for the advised 8 hours. Now we know that we sleep in cycles of 90 minutes. During one cycle, you will go through different stages of sleep, including dozing off, light sleep, deep sleep, and then REM, rapid eye movements. What they found in the sleep studies is that to feel rested, you need to complete at least 4, ideally 5 cycles, uninterrupted. But a very interesting thing, if you don't reach REM sleep stage because something or someone interrupts the cycle, the 90-minute cycle, it doesn't matter how many hours you'll get in the end, you just don't feel rested. You'll also miss out on connecting new memories and establishing newly created neural networks. So your learning, it's going to be vastly impaired if your 90-minute sleep cycle is getting constantly interrupted. So let me ask you this. I want you to think right now. How many times in this week did you wake up during the night? Maybe your partner came to bed later than you, maybe you got a notification on your phone. But if you think back, did you get a solid 2 or 3 cycles of sleep uninterrupted? 3 cycles, about 4.5 hours. And if you didn't, 3 cycles is really the absolute minimum. So how do we implement this? The easiest way is to find the earliest time that you need to be awake for, and then work backwards in 90-minute cycles to find the most optimal time of the night or the evening when you need to aim to be asleep. So not to go to bed, but you need to be asleep. Ideally, in a perfect world, most people will want or need 5 cycles, about 7.5 hours. But different people may need more, or less, depends on, how you're wired. You can also plan to manipulate a number of cycles that you need. So if you know that you need to be awake for an event, or you are traveling somewhere, or maybe you just want to enjoy a late night out. So with a bit of planning, you can unlock the time needed for about 2 or 3 days where you can plan to have less sleep. Now, for example, I can feel very rested and very refreshed on full, uninterrupted 4 cycles of sleep. That's 6 hours. But I have done 3 cycles, 4.5 hours, on many occasions in my life. That means I can work until late in the night. For example, right now it's about 3:30 in the morning and I'm creating the video, I'm wide awake. And that's because I'm a night owl, which is a chrono type. And I'll talk about chrono types in a minute. These days, I frequently work until about 3 a.m. And I aim to be asleep by about 4:30, 5 a.m. Ideally, I already want to be awake by 10 a.m., completing about 4 full cycles. So I said I'm a night owl. What does that mean? Well, my entire life, people like my mom, they've been telling me that I need to be awake and just roaring by 8 a.m. I need to be doing stuff. A lot of people around me are larks, but I'm never going to be one of those people who are, up and fully functional and productive at break of dawn, if I have a choice. For the first part of my adult life, I've chosen a profession where you effectively had a nighttime job, music gigs. And that suited me because of my chronotype. Chronotype is genetically wired into you. There's very little you can do about them. You can learn to work with your chronotype, but you can never really change it. And there are 3 chronotypes. The most common ones are the early birds, aka the larks, and the late afternoon chronotypes, aka the night owls. There's also a 3rd type, which is like the in-betweeners. They're neither here nor there, but there's a lot less of them. If you're a lark, you will naturally be awake in the morning, like ready to go. If you're a night owl like me, pretty much until the afternoon, you're a bit useless. I mean, I can answer emails, I can look at other people's setups for feedback, but one of the big reasons why I don't really enjoy trading the London session is because I don't see things clearly. My brain is just all foggy and it doesn't function properly. When I was at university doing my master's in music performance, it was classical music, and I went into my flute lecture just with my empty instrument case. And not just once, it happened quite a few times. But I'm not one of those people who are like forgetful and never know where their keys and wallet are. I'm not like that. I'm not forgetful, I'm just a little bit useless in the morning. And here's why, now I know. Back in the prehistoric times, humans operated through their natural circadian rhythm. That's the internal clock that sets your sleep-wake cycle. And back then, the larks, who were naturally awake and like functioning early in the morning, they would be the ones going out hunting and gathering during the day. Whereas the night owls would sleep in, and we would prepare the camp for when the larks return later in the day. We would also tend to the fire at night and watching over the camp, ensuring everyone is safe. So everyone had their designated duties depending on their natural circadian rhythm. But with the invention of various technology devices, our circadian rhythms started to go out of sync. Now, don't get me wrong, I love tech. I'm a geek, I cannot live without my computer, my phone, Netflix, reading the news, all of that. Technology devices emit a blue light. This is now quite well known. Now, the blue light itself is not as evil as they make it out to be these days, because during the day, outside, you have nothing but blue light. The problem is with the timing of the blue light. So back in the prehistoric times, blue light exposure would help you with the waking up part, because exposure to blue light causes your brain to start producing serotonin. And then on the other side of the color spectrum, you have red and orange lights, which used to be associated with the campfires. So the light of the fire, even though it burns very bright, it doesn't cause wakefulness. Quite the opposite, it actually helps our brains to start producing melatonin, which is a sleep hormone. So it stands to reason that if you stop the exposure to blue light, the closer you are to bedtime, this will help you reset that circadian clock and ultimately fall asleep more easily, right? Which is why some kind of anti-tech warriors will, advise you to put away all your devices and don't stare at your phone and switch off your TV and fuck off. I like the flickering light of a TV show. So, my solution, instead of the whole no devices after 9 p.m., I have this app called Night Shift. And what that does is like a filter. So it puts an orange overlay blocking the blue light. And also my silly massive glasses, which I showed you briefly a few videos ago. Here they are. Now, I don't wear glasses. I did LASIK surgery a long time ago, which brought my very bad eyesight from 2500, blind as a bat, down to 2020. But the reason why I have these glasses is because they block the blue light. And I've always had trouble getting to sleep when I was younger. So in recent years, I found it helpful to be a little more organized with my pre-bedtime, I don't want to say ritual, because it's not like I suddenly announce that my bedtime ritual is beginning. You know, if I don't tell anyone about it, no one even realizes that I'm doing anything. But for example, some of the things that I will do is try to limit caffeine intake for at least 6 to 7 hours before I plan to be asleep. Reason for that is that caffeine has a half-life of about 6 hours. It will stay in your system until about 2, 3, 4 in the morning. The next thing I do, I have Philips Hue lights in most rooms of the house, apart from the bathrooms. In the bathrooms there, the lights are about 4000 Kelvin, which means they're pretty close to the blue light spectrum. And if I leave the teeth brushing up until right before I go to bed, it always wakes me up. Knowing that, I aim to get the teeth done about a couple of hours before I'm planning to be asleep. I also like to keep a shot of espresso ready for the morning, and I'll explain why in a minute. And then if I'm doing some late night video editing or maybe watching some TV with my husband, I will ensure that I wear those sexy blue light blocking glasses. If I'm already in bed, then I would change the color of Philips Hue to warm colors like orange, yellows and reds. And I always browse the news or check emails on my phone before bed or in bed, but before that I will make sure that my Night Shift app is switched on. So all of that helps me to wind down for the evening and to get to sleep at the designated time. Then come morning, it's the opposite of all that. So when my alarm goes off, and actually a lot of the mornings I'm already awake before the alarm, but I'm not alert, if that makes sense. So the first thing that I do, I turn to my bedside table and I neck down the shot of espresso that I made the night before. Then I go back to snoozing for the next 20 minutes. Because caffeine takes 20 minutes to take effect. Instead of, me trying to jump out of bed all groggy and lost, I allow myself an extra 20 minutes to start my waking up. That entails switching off the Night Shift app and then having a little look at the news. When I do my morning cardio, I tend to let as much daylight in as possible. All of this has allowed me to take full control over my sleep and recovery. And it's made a massive difference for me to have those 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep, and then I feel more rested. Even compared to some of the earlier years when I would get a lot of sleep, I would probably get 8 or 9 hours and still feel tired, and I never knew why. And like I said, you can unlock some time by planning out, maybe to sleep less for a couple of days when you're going to be traveling or you have some sort of an event on. But in that case, you need to ensure that you get the full 5 cycles leading up to the days when you know that you have to be awake. Now, if you do, 2 cycles, 3 cycles longer than a couple of days, you are pushing it. I mean, your brain function and your performance in general will begin to deteriorate. That's all for this video. Now, a few of you have expressed interest in me creating a Patreon, a slightly different type of content that would focus more on lifestyle, more health, fitness, nutrition, show you some behind the scenes content, possibly even some trading computer setups, tech, monitors, I don't know, maybe breakdown of costs for setting up your trading home office. And it would also enable you to support the channel in a more direct way. So let me ask you, would you like me to create a Patreon? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Now, if you want to support the channel, of course, one way that you can do that is to simply keep watching, sharing, and liking the videos. But another way, with what we've got set up right now, you can sign up for my Udemy courses, or you can dive straight into the main pro development program over on the main site. You'll find all the relevant links down below. Once again, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.